Eliminating comma splices and run-ons. Part 1. What causes the errors? The sentence structure errors, comma splices, and run-ons occur when two independent clauses are being connected to create one compound sentence. If you need a review of the sentence types, please see the 4 sentence types video. Because each of the independent clauses can stand alone as a sentence, we need to make sure that we punctuate correctly to show where the independent clauses meet, which is the famous junction you may be familiar with from Schoolhouse Rocks, and to show how the independent clauses are related to each other. Let's start with 2 very basic independent clauses so that we can easily see that junction. Remember from the 4 sentence types video that an independent clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb and can stand alone. The junction is where the 2 clauses meet. If we capitalize the first letter of each independent clause and then place a period at the end of each clause, we have 2 simple sentence types. Yes, these are very simple sentences, but bear with me. While a simple sentence type can be useful to make a direct point among a variety of sentence types, if all the sentences are only simple sentence types, they create a choppy, repetitive flow that is rather monotonous for the reader. But more importantly, the sentences would not show strong relationships between the ideas in the sentences. When we write essays, the ideas in our sentences, in our paragraphs, need to work together to build towards bigger ideas that support your overall ideas in the thesis. One step towards this idea is creating compound sentence types by connecting 2 or more independent clauses together to create one sentence that shows the relationships between each other. Back to our silly little sentences. The dog barked and the cat jumped. When you connect 2 independent clauses together, there are always 2 steps you must do at the junction where the independent clauses meet. 1, you must show separation between the independent clauses because the independent clauses are you must show separation between the independent clauses. Because the clauses are independent, they need to be shown to stand separately, even though they are in the same sentence. 2, you must show the relationship to be understood between the independent clauses. It is the missing of one step or the other or both at that critical junction where the clauses meet that creates the errors of comma splices and run-ons. Let's look at how these errors occur. We need to be sure to keep the 2 necessary steps in mind when connecting the independent clauses. Step 1, show separation of the independent clauses. Step 2, show relationship to be understood between the independent clauses. The error of a comma splice. If you only do step 1, only show separation, then you create a comma splice. The dog barked, comma, the cat jumped. You can think of the comma like it's a knife. It cuts or splices the independent clauses apart. Without showing the necessary second step, relationship, it's like you cut the 2 independent clauses free to float apart, as this sentence shows. Again, keeping the 2 necessary steps in mind when connecting the independent clauses. Step 1, show separation of the independent clauses. Step 2, show relationship to be understood between the independent clauses. The error of a run-on. If you don't do either step or only do step 2, only show the relationship, then you create a run-on. The dog barked, the cat jumped, period. The dog barked, so the cat jumped, period. There are no commas here. The term run-on is a bit problematic because people often think a run-on is a sentence that goes on and on. But that's not what is happening. Remember that junction where the clauses meet. If you do not show separation, then you make it difficult for your reader to see where that junction is, especially in the more sophisticated sentences that we write in essays. So think of a run-on more like a car crash. One independent clause runs on into the next. The cat jumped, dog barked. They just smashed together because there are no commas there. So to review, the error of a comma splice is caused by only using a comma to show separation between the independent clauses, but not showing any relationship between the clauses. The dog barked, comma, the cat jumped, period. The error of a run-on is caused by not showing any separation, whether or not the relationship is shown. Eliminating comma splices and run-ons, part 2, the 3 main strategies for effectively connecting independent clauses. If there are several comma splices and or run-ons in a paragraph of ideas, the separate ideas that are supposed to be working together become confusing for the reader because there are no clear signals for how to follow the train of thought. Speaking of trains, it's like the old conjunction junction. If it's not clear where the cars are supposed to go, then the trains won't have any clear track to follow. The same is true with your sentences. If it's not clear where the 2 independent clauses meet or how they relate to each other at the junction, your reader will have difficulty keeping on track with your developing ideas. As shown in part 1, we always need to keep the 2 necessary steps in mind when connecting 2 or more independent clauses. Step 1, show separation. Step 2, show relationship. The first approach to effectively connecting 2 or more independent clauses is to use a comma and then one of the coordinating conjunctions, sometimes known as the fanboys: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. The comma plus the coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunction for shows the relationship of effect cause. Coordinating conjunction and shows addition. Nor shows no choice or neither nor. But shows contrast. Or shows choice or either or. Yet shows contrast. And so shows cause and effect. The dog barked, comma, and the cat jumped. The comma completes step 1. It shows separation. The coordinating conjunction completes step 2. It shows the relationship to be understood between the independent clauses. Each of the fanboys show a specific relationship, so we want to be sure we are choosing the best relationship based on the ideas we are putting together. The term coordinating conjunction may be a bit intimidating, so let's break it down. With the word coordinating, the prefix co means together or mutual. For example, a co-worker is someone you work with mutually. But in this case, co is placed in front of ordinating or ordinate, which has its origin in the Latin word ordinare, meaning put in order. So to coordinate in relation to compound sentences means to put 2 equally important ideas together. In other words, the clauses are of equal order. With the word conjunction, the prefix con means with, like chili con carne means chili with meat. And a junction is a point where two or more things join, like crossing train tracks or intersecting roads, or in our case, two independent clauses that are coming together. So a conjunction is a word that comes with the point where two things meet. In this case, the end of one independent clause and the beginning of the other one. So this means step one, show separation, helps us see where the equally independent clauses meet and shows that they are separate. While step two, the showing of the relationship to be understood between the independent clauses comes with the point where the independent clauses meet. So to look at that same sentence again, the comma completes step one. It shows separation between the dog barked and the cat jumped. And the coordinating conjunction completes step two. It shows the relationship to be understood between the independent clauses. With this first option, we want to think carefully about how our ideas are related. One of the most commonly used words from the fanboys is and. This is primarily because using and to connect independent clauses is the easiest choice. And shows addition. It says one thing happened plus another thing happened. In other words, and does not really tell us much about the relationship. So always consider whether one of the other fanboys might show a more specific relationship. Again, with the comma plus the coordinating conjunction, we have for, which shows effect and cause, and addition, and shows addition. Nor shows no choice or neither nor, but shows contrast. Or shows choice or either or, yet shows contrast. So shows cause and effect. The fanboys are the only 7 words that can be used with a comma to connect independent clauses. Any of the fanboys can be used in the sentence below, but the different relationship words change the meaning of the sentence. For example, when we use for, it sets up an effect first, then explains the cause. For can be used like because here. Using for keeps the clauses independent, whereas using because would create a dependent clause. So the second clause shows cause, which leads to the effect, which is in the first clause. If we use so instead of for, we reverse the argument of the sentence because now it means cause and then effect. The dog barked, comma, so the cat jumped. The cause is the dog barked, and the effect is that the cat jumped. If we use but, the point of the sentence is about contrast, that two different things happened. The dog barked, comma, but the cat jumped. One thing happened, but a different thing happened. Yet also shows contrast. Or shows a choice or either or, and nor shows the negative, no choice, neither nor. 2, the semicolon. With the second approach for connecting independent clauses, we use a semicolon. Although it is one piece of punctuation, it still does both the necessary steps of showing separation and relationship. You can think of a semicolon like 2 different punctuation marks stacked together, a period on top of a comma. The top part is a period and shows separation, while the bottom piece shows that one idea is related to the other. You can use a semicolon by itself when the independent clauses are clearly related to each other. In this sense, using the semicolon like this is a more formal version of using comma and. So if you see that your independent clauses really don't need to show any kind of specific relationship, use the more formal semicolon in your essay rather than comma and. which you want to avoid. Now let's say you want the formality of the semicolon, but you need to clarify the relationships that need to be understood. That's where option 3 comes in. With 3, we have a semicolon, conjunctive adverb, or a transitional word phrase, and then a comma. When we use option 3, it requires 3 important parts. 1, we need the semicolon. 2, the conjunctive adverb or transition word. And then 3, a comma. The semicolon does its job of showing the initial separation and relationship. The conjunctive adverb enhances the relationship, while the comma afterwards tells the reader that the next idea is to follow. You can think of it like a 3-piece suit. It needs all 3 pieces to be complete. In this case, using therefore shows cause and effect. The dog barked, semicolon, therefore the cat jumped. Here are some of the other words and phrases you can use to show the relationships when using a semicolon. If you want to show addition, you can use in addition, moreover, furthermore, additionally, as well, also. If you want to show contradiction or contrast, however, on the other hand, on the contrary, conversely, nevertheless, unlike. If you wanted to show comparison, you could use similarly, in comparison, comparatively, at the same time, likewise, like. If you want to show order or sequence, you can say first, or first of all, next, then, finally, previously, meanwhile. If you're showing an example, you can use for example, for instance, such as, like. Cause and effect, there, you can use therefore, as a result, consequently, thus. Clarification, in other words, that is, as mentioned, again. Conclusion, in summary, in brief, overall. So to review, we always need to keep 2 necessary steps in mind when connecting 2 or more independent clauses. 1, show relationship of the independent clauses. 2, show relationship to be understood between the independent clauses. We can show separation and relationship when putting 2 or more independent clauses together by one of these 3 approaches. 1, comma plus coordinating conjunction, otherwise known as the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. For example, the dog barked, comma, so the cat jumped, period. 2, we can use the semicolon, a more formal version of comma and. For example, the dog barked, semicolon, the cat jumped, period. And 3, the semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma. Remember, this step needs all 3 parts, the semicolon, the conjunctive adverb, and the comma. For example, the dog barked, semicolon, therefore, comma, the cat jumped, period.